It's basically smart clothing that is powered by teeny. It's the suit is powered by tiny motors, which contract. Geez, holy cap! Okay, let me start that again.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
My name's Rob Minot, and I'm joined here by Mr. Ryan Fleury.
That's me.
And hey, special guest, Ryan, you want to introduce him?
We do have a special guest today, not in studio, but joining us remotely from...
The wilds of... Where are you? Where are you, mystery guest?
On the north arm of the Fraser River in Vancouver.
Excellent. Is our friend of the show, Adam Wilton.
And we'll
Thanks so much for having me again. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, well, that's right. For those super fans who have listened to us since the beginning, I think Adam was on like our fourth or fifth,
yeah.
It was early on, yeah. It was back when I was. Well, actually, it's funny. I said back when I was publicizing the Braille challenge. I still am every chance I get. But yeah, that was a time ago.
Well, and speaking of the Braille challenge, I'm just going to throw this whole podcast in a different direction at the moment, Rob. Sorry about that.
No, go ahead, throw it in whatever direction you want.
So the Braille challenge actually just wrapped up again.
Well, hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, before you do that, let's let everybody know who Adam is, because
sure,
who he works for and all that, and then we can go into the Braille challenge. So
why am I here? Do you want me to say a little bit about myself?
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay. So I am the manager of the Provincial Resource Centre for the Visually Impaired. We're a provincial resource program in British Columbia, essentially working to make sure that students with perceptual disabilities have access to learning materials in a format that they require, so accessible formats. My background is as a teacher of students with visual impairments and an orientation and mobility specialist, and I've been in the blindness and visual impairment field for about 11 years now.
Jeez, Ron, why didn't you book somebody who's qualified? Who are these crackpots you keep booking on the show?
My.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, now...
And delighted to talk about the Braille Challenge, though, because another hat that I wear is as the provincial coordinator of the BC, or the British Columbia Regional Braille Challenge.
So the Braille Challenge actually just wrapped up again, I think last month or a couple of weeks ago. And was BC represented, or how did Canada do? Definitely.
So we had two students from Canada participate in the national event. And actually, it's more accurately described as an international event because, of course, we have students coming from both Canada and the U.S. who are participating in regional events across North America. And then the top 50 students from across Canada and the U.S. Are invited to Los Angeles for the finals. And this year, at the 2018 finals, we had two students from Canada participate. Incidentally, both students were from British Columbia.
Excellent.
And one of those students placed third in her category. And so we were very proud of both young ladies who participated. It was nice to see one of them pick up an award in her category. So yeah, we did. Our British Columbia students did very well this year.
And for those who don't know, can you just do a quick overview of what the Braille Challenge is?
Sure. So the Braille Challenge is a Braille reading and writing competition that takes place all across North America with either students writing one-on-one with their teacher of students with visual impairments, or if they have one in their region, they'll go to a regional challenge where students will come together for a day and a day of fun and competition. There's five categories. So students participate in events like spelling, reading comprehension, proofreading. Older students will do something called speed and accuracy, and that's where they're listening to a file and transcribing what they're hearing into Braille. And then the older students will also explore tactile graphics and maps and answer questions related to those. And as I said, all of the scores from across North America are kind of put together, and the top 10 students in each age category, there are 5 age categories, are invited to LA, and it's a big event. We have it on the campus of the University of Southern California, and it's a really big show. It's streamed live on YouTube every year, and I'm proud to say that our students from British Columbia habitually are at the national challenge and international challenge, and then some years are representing the whole country. And I should also mention, it's for students who read and write in Braille from grades 1 through grade 12.
And has the Braille challenge, I'm assuming they've adopted UEB?
Oh, definitely, across the board. Yeah. Through both Canada and the U.S., the entire challenge is in the Unified English Braille Code. There isn't a great deal there's no math content, and there's only kind of minimal technical content in some of the graphs. So there isn't, for those who know, there's some parts of the United States that have maintained the previous math and science code, the Nemeth code, at that state level, but it's been a fairly smooth transition, I feel, for students from across North America to the UEB.
Excellent. All right, so that was my rant. Rob, take it away.
All right. Well, hey. Well, why don't we start out with telling people what the heck we're doing today and why Adam is here?
Well, today is our monthly news show. So for July, we decided to invite Adam in as a guest host to give us his thoughts, opinions, or just rant on the topics that Rob is going to pull out of his hat.
Ooh, rant! I like it.
I like that. I like that the ranting is a feature of this.
Absolutely, AT ranter.
Uninformed rants are our specialty, sir. And you may notice that, of course, that Steve is not with us today. Steve is off today doing actual work.
Yeah.
So it actually works out well that Adam's here to join us and give us a hand talking about some stories.
Wonderful.
All right. This why don't we start out with let's start it with a Braille piece. I noticed that Ryan sent me this today.
Yeah, sorry, Adam, I didn't fire it off to you because I didn't know
no, that's okay.
Rob was going to include it.
But it is Braille related, so you're gonna like it. Now I don't know. I'm not sure I quite follow all the details of this. Ryan, did you read this over?
No.
God, Ryan. Oh, you did.
I was doing real work this morning.
Did you just see the word Braille and just like this? Here you go. All right. Well, it's a story from our good friends at Cool Blind Tech. Shout out to them. Reprogrammable Braille could eliminate reading multiple books to just a few pages. Now, apparently researchers at the Harvard John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences have created reprogrammable Braille that could eliminate the need for unique pages without using a Braille display. It's described as a framework to encode memory in the form of Braille-like dimples and bumps onto a blank, lattice-free material. This material is as dynamic as the words it can contain, changing as needed to reflect the new text. So from the story, apparently this stuff it's a thin, curved elastic shell using forces on each end and then made indents with a basic stylus. Once you remove the compression, the shell remembers the indents, and then you can erase them by stretching the shell. So, I mean, it sounds kind of like I don't know, it's a kind of a simple simple
like a
analogy.
Braille etch-a-sketch.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like an
Etch-a-sketch,
etch-a-sketch, where you could put the Braille down and then. So I mean, it's essentially like a refreshable sheet, a physical sheet, as opposed to a refreshable Braille display. Interesting.
So this is really interesting. I'm wondering though, just out loud, how much of this, if you're making the indentation, does it, like, would one have to use their slate and stylus skills here, or would it recognize that it would need to invert the depression made by the user?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that the article really talks about that. It sounds like this is really at the beginning.
Right. Yeah, and that's always always the caveat that I think I have, because of course, as someone who works in literacy for students who are blind or visually impaired, whenever someone finds out what I do for a living, they instinctively send me every article with Braille in it from the internet they come across. It's like, I don't need Google News alerts. I just have my friends.
Yeah.
And this is always the caveat that I have with some of the really, really early technologies. Well, what's the skill set required? Like, what's the knowledge and skills that's going to undergird this? Because while some of this technology may replace the physical or may change the physical materials we need, ultimately, though, we need to make sure that students have the skills and knowledge and the conceptual understanding to be able to use it effectively.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the upside of it is that I think it's always exciting when there is some sort of new technology being brought to Braille. Certainly we need that.
Definitely.
We need the cost of Braille to come down in terms of devices. Stuff like refreshable Braille displays, as we all know, the cost is so high. So the fact that there are things in development, the Braille Me is one that we've talked about a little bit about on the show before, the Orbit Reader.
Mm-hmm.
These new Braille technologies that can help drive the price down a little bit and help Braille be that much more accessible to consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a good thing.
Oh, definitely. I think the key though with some of this technology is making sure that we're taking a kind of a more like an integrative approach where reading and writing are combined in the same device.
Right.
I think that's why one of the reasons why Braille note takers have persisted and continue to persist not only in the K-12 sector but beyond, because you've got the reading and the writing component so perfectly integrated.
Right.
Or not perfectly, but so efficiently integrated. Because I think of things like this technology you're describing, Rob, sounds fantastic. I'm wondering, does it have a USB port? Like, is this just a writing tool? Is it also a reading tool? Are you only reading your own input? Curious.
Yeah, it is. Although, I mean, if they can manage to get this material cemented, they could apply that to any number of different devices, and so I think that's the sort of the key. I mean, this is technology that's really, really at the foundation. If they can figure out the material, who knows what they might be able to apply.
It's very cool just to imagine. And I think what's really neat about this is that it's a modality shift. Like where we're thinking of, like,
yes.
we're not just thinking of refining what we currently have. Like, for example, we're not thinking of refining or only refining, let's say, like a refreshable pin display.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right? We're also thinking about what are some new materials that we could be using.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It. So that's really interesting.
Well, and I think, we kind of passed over something really, really important is I think for the last 10 to 15 years, I know Steve and myself and many other people in the industry have been wondering why Braille note takers are still around. And I think, Adam, you answered that question. It's the combination of being able to do the reading and writing.
Right. And we see this shift now with note takers to kind of bring note takers more in line with with tablets and as the more portable computing side of things has really taken off, from the iPad on up, on along rather. You're seeing more integration there, but like fundamentally, a note taker is still a note taker,
Right.
In terms of the refreshable display and the 6-key entry, and the ability to work in some cases almost exclusively from the note taker, and then also having the ability to be able to send a teacher who doesn't read Braille a PDF,
Right.
or a doc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's until I think just in my own practice as a teacher of students with visual impairments, Braille note taker for students who can use them effectively still really it occupies a really central piece in their overall assistive technology toolkits.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this could, if they develop this technology to its logical conclusion, we could be talking about a device that would be almost like a Braille Kindle, because you could literally have a book loaded onto it. Mm-hmm. That but it could literally be a physical 1-page device,
like
mm-hmm.
the Canute.
Yeah, sort of like, but that just loads
the multi-line display.
Yeah, that loads a page. Once you're done that page, it loads the next page,
right.
And it's really cool. That's pretty cool.
The idea, like it's been actually several years now before. I can't remember the exact name. I don't know that it ever made it beyond the quote unquote ghostware phase, right. But this idea of like an electrosensitive polymer.
Yes,
or something, right? That's something that would react to changes in electrical current or stimulation, and that would be the dot formation.
Right.
That's how the dots would be raised, and then it would be just inherently refreshable, because you'd be working on like a binary, like stimulated or not stimulated, in terms of dots being raised and raised or lowered. So I think that's exactly what I was kind of referring to before, this idea that we're looking at this in a broad scope and not simply just refining what's most ubiquitous right now, which is the pin, the single line pin display.
Yeah, it's great to know that there are people out there that are much smarter than we are, that are thinking outside the box. I mean, I think that I think that you hit on it perfectly, is that for a long time, everybody was just trying to sort of play with the same old technology and figure out a way to make it more efficient. But really, when you're talking about pins and sort of the old school of thought in terms of Braille displays and Braille technology, refreshable Braille technology, there just hasn't been a lot new under the sun for the past.
Nothing that's stuck.
Yeah, nothing that's stuck. I mean, I guess they've tried, but I mean, it's just really hard. So it's exciting to know that there's stuff in the works.
And I think this is a little plug from my own bias in the education sector, but I think what's really exciting is that when this technology, from kind of a research and development perspective, reaches a certain point, bringing in the education side of things, so that the developers can get a sense of, well, how would we introduce this to students? What's the background conceptual knowledge that they're going to have to come to this technology with in order to be able to use it effectively? And I've been I've actually been quite excited to see some developers doing that, and connecting with the education community as a means of really making sure that, the technology works, and it might be really attractive, but at the end of the day, unsupported technology is going to end up propping a door open somewhere at some point.
Yeah, that's right.
We know that, and we know that in the K-12 sector, that if assistive technology is not appropriately supported, at least initially, the likelihood that it's going to be a persistent feature in that student's toolbox is quite low.
Right.
So yeah, it's I guess that's just my like shameless education sector plug there. That in all of these new technologies, it's it's really important to focus on the teaching and learning side of things as well, to make sure that whatever fabulous new technologies developed ends up being sustainable.
All right.
So that's my first plug. Keep track of how many plugs I make.
We'll see if you can get a plug out of the next story. Good luck on this one.
All right.
Okay, this next one, this one's near and dear to me and Ryan's hearts. Seismic supersuit helps old people move.
The Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
No, this is about a company called Seismic that has developed what they're calling a supersuit, which you read the article, it's not a supersuit, but it's still very cool. A company called Seismic has developed what they're calling a supersuit, which is essentially a piece of smart clothing that is powered by tiny motors, which contract the fabric in a way that mimics the human muscle. So. And again, this is tech that's at its super foundational level. They're still developing it, but the long and the short of it is that it could be clothing that could be worn to assist people who obviously have arthritis, have some sort of limited mobility, and the motors and the I don't know, they're calling them electric muscles, could be helped to sort of augment movement and help, say, people who would normally need to walk with a cane, they may be able to walk unassisted.
So what if the computer brain and the smart clothing takes over? You decide you don't want to move, and it starts moving you, and you don't want to move.
Ryan, that's why I love you.
And then you're walking in traffic.
Just straight like
it's the AI, right? It's the overlords.
You just go straight down the negativity lane.
Well,
Ryan,
if that was the case, I might actually get my push-ups done in the morning.
That's true too.
Well, that's a whole other. We had a great podcast with a guy named Mark Kingwell the other week, and that's what my mind went straight to too. It's just the way that this technology could be completely perverted into something that. No, this is okay. Getting back on track though, it's the idea of smart clothing. They've been playing with this for a while, but this is the one of the really first ones that I've seen that has a real AT potential. That's interesting. I don't know. What's your take on this, Ryan? Other than
negativity?
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. There's like you said, there's more and more talk of smart clothing, and if it helps somebody to get up and about, helps them or helps get them motivated to exercise or to get out of their house to gain a little bit more independence, more power to it. I'm all for it. Yeah,
just to give them a little bit more power. It does raise a lot of questions and a lot of implications down the road. I mean, if this takes off or it's developed in this sense, could the technology eventually get good enough that, we're talking about people who, with CP, could they, walk unassisted? Or even, heck, way down the road, could this help people who are paralyzed?
I'm really curious, just listening to the story and thinking about the applications, about the possibilities, or what are the parameters around the interface here. Like I get the sense in this early stage that we're looking at kind of like movement augmentation, but yeah, Rob, I think the idea of like movement replacement, almost like a movement or like a substitution, is a really exciting possibility.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that they're working on things. This is a little different than smart clothing, but I saw a piece the other day on an exoskeleton that a company was developing that would essentially be worn, and their application for it was sort of, they were going towards people who do a lot of repetitive motion in construction. Like who are using grinders and stuff, lifting grinders above their heads and stuff. People who work with those all day, get a lot of repetitive strain injuries. And their application for these exoskeletons would be that it would actually, the exoskeleton would do most of the work in terms of lifting and the holding of the grinder in place. So really, all the human inside the exoskeleton would have to do is just sort of steer the device instead of having to lift it and hold it in position. So, things like that, helping, more in the lines of assisting as opposed to replacement is sort of where it's at now. But yeah, it's fascinating to think that eventually it could get good enough where we could be talking about people being able to walk again.
Well, and I think, you have physiotherapists coming into your home. They can bring the smart clothing in with them, or you could have it already. I would think, doing something or having a tool like this in your tool belt may help recovery a lot faster as well.
That's right. That's very true too. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Motor relearning, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, it's fascinating stuff. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, going to where it could be perverted. I mean, also, but I mean, really, could you not, if somebody who's able-bodied put one of these things on, and now you're talking about
superpower?
Well, not superpower. I don't want to be ridiculous about it, but who knows? I don't know. Could you hack it? Could you make yourself 3 times as strong as you normally were? How is that all going to work? So.
Yeah, I wonder if it's got like different levels of the electronic muscle control, like starting low. If you're doing rehabilitation, start with low, stimulation, work your way up to medium and then high. Next thing you know, you're putting your fist through cars and stuff.
Oh, exactly. Or I'm thinking like runners, like how they have those electric bikes now, where you can you can pedal and stuff, but then you can turn on the little electric motor to help.
Pedal assist. Yeah.
So you could have put on leggings or something that. And just run a marathon and you're just eating some yogurt and watching Netflix while you do it because you're not really doing any of the work. just running or just chasing cars. I don't know. Now my mind's going to the $6 million man.
There you go.
Jumping.
Well, it's an interesting prospect because you're basically thinking about taking functions that you would need like a separate machine apparatus to complete, and you're essentially just mapping them onto the individual.
Yeah.
So and when we were really doing stuff like that already with, things like the Google Glass and whatnot, and I think that's actually really the kind of the key piece around a lot of some of the wearable technology is that, you're basically taking something that existed as a standalone apparatus and just mapping it onto the human form.
That's right.
Cyborgs.
Well, we don't even need cyborg. You could just be a temporary cyborg. You just put on your clothing and
walk out the door.
Away you
temporary
go.
RoboCop.
Just Superman. Interesting stuff, boys. Okay, on to the next thing. Let's talk a little bit about bone conduction wireless glasses. This is an interesting product. For those people who aren't familiar with bone conduction technology. There's a few companies that make these. They're called bone conduction headphones, and the way that they work is through vibration. They actually sit. They don't sit over top of your ear. They sit sort of just beside,
kind of on your cheekbone.
It transmits the sound that way through vibration, as opposed to an earbud that would sit inside your ear. And generally they've been very useful for, say, the blind community who, want to be able to wear headphones, but they also want to be able to have their ears open to be able to be aware of their surroundings. And that's generally how it's been touted, both in the mainstream and within the blindness community. So they're very cool. And what this company has now done is they've made a pair of bone conduction headphones, but instead of being a headphone, they're glasses. So the glasses would sit on your face as a normal pair of glasses were, and then sort of the ends of them, I'm assuming, would be the part that would vibrate and allow you to, quote, hear whatever, and they're wireless, so they would connect to your phone. So I'm assuming that they'd be able to, whatever, play your Spotify playlist. They'd be able to talk on the phone, get notifications, that kind of thing. Ryan, what did you think of this?
I think, the more tools we have in our tool bag, the better. I think, bone conduction is a great asset. Anything to keep our hands and ears, free and open, gives us, again, more independence to hear the bus, plowing through the red light, or, get notifications on our phone, hands-free, not having to dig around in your purse or your bag. I think it's great. I hope it takes off.
I do too. I mean, this is something where you think of glasses. If you're let's say you're a blind traveler who's consistently using GPS. Well, it's one less thing that you have to remember, or a user with low vision, let's say, who's consistently using GPS when traveling. You don't have to worry about remembering your headphones, because chances are you're not going to forget your glasses.
Yep, that's true. That's true. I mean, I guess when I first saw this, my first thought went, well, what's the advantage of putting this in the form of glasses as opposed to just headphones? Because bone conduction wireless headphones are out there. They're very common. So I just wondered immediately.
Well, I think typically glasses don't fall off your face. Headphones can slide down or on your neck, fall off your body.
Yeah. And maybe there's something to what Adam was saying too. I mean, you're just less likely to forget them, or maybe it's a purely aesthetic reason. You just look less like a weirdo.
Well, I just think if they were to build this technology into mainstream glasses, so let's say you are low vision, yet you still have some functional vision.
Yeah.
You're still wearing, maybe really strong lenses in your glasses. That maybe they build the Bluetooth technology into those glasses. So you're still wearing your regular glasses, but now they also have this added function of, the Bluetooth.
Yeah, you may be right.
Well, and then if you take it even further and you look at something, that would integrate, camera or OCR type technology, you could essentially just have like a powerful room viewing system on your face.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, that's, look at the Google Glass. I mean, I still feel that the Google Glass was a little bit ahead of its time. That was, I think, the only thing that was wrong with that. I think people weren't quite ready for that level of augmented reality and all that kind of stuff. But so I still feel like that concept is going to come back around. We are going to be having, smart glasses are going to be a thing in 5-10 years. We're going to be, so maybe that idea of something, a device that's in the form of glasses, that all of this stuff can be rolled into as an all-in-one sort of solution. It could have a camera on it so that it could assist people who are visually impaired, have the bone conduction thing, also have all the AR capabilities for mainstream users as well.
Right.
So,
well, let's hope it's somebody in the mainstream who comes up with a product like this, because then the price will be a lot more reasonable.
Well, we know how that works. It's there'll be several different companies that there'll be competition. That's part of the frustrating thing about a lot of this stuff is that they develop a technology, and then you have a bunch of different companies trying competing for the market share. And so, although who knows, maybe that's healthy. Yeah, I'm just looking for our next story. Do we want to talk about Google Duplex?
I don't think we really need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care. I don't. It's yeah.
Adam, do you know what Google Duplex is?
I must admit, fellows, I skimmed the article.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is.
It's creepy.
Yeah, I think we just enjoy talking.
It's basically just automated voice contact, correct?
Yeah, it's Google's AI that's going to allow you to basically use your assistant or their duplex, I guess, to make dinner reservations, hair appointments. A lot of call centers are going to adopt it as well. So you're not going to be talking to live agents. You're going to be talking to AI.
Right. Okay.
I think
Yeah, I mean,
the interesting thing that for me anyways that I always take away from talking about duplex is the fact that they're really actively trying to program in like real human verbal tics.
Like
the ums and ahs and
and
things, and like how many likes do we need to put in this?
I want to go back and do a little bit of research and find out when humans started using the word like for everything. Because when I was growing up, we didn't use, like, Adam, when we went to the store, like, I bought some ice cream, and like when did like become such a word in our vernacular, vocabulary?
Well, but I mean, we had our own verbal tics back then. I'm sure. I don't remember what they were. But
dude,
I don't know.
Think, you know what? These have always been. I remember learning something early in my university days that really stuck with me, and actually, maintains its relevance today. When people ask me, well, can't students with visual impairments just listen to everything?
Mm-hmm.
And now, obviously that's a there's a lot to unpack there, but if you were to take a verbatim transcript of just day-to-day conversation, we would all be shocked at how we would be shocked.
Yeah.
And it's referred to as kind of like the poverty of speech, right? That like our input, our brains do a lot to clean up the input that we get from others. Some more than others, I guess. Right. I think it's there's more of the like socio-emotional side of talking to something that sounds like a human.
That's exactly
But then by the other token, seriously, like I would shudder to look at the verbatim transcript of our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and they say that, they've done that in order to make the automated assistant
more natural,
more comfortable for people to interact with. They found that when it's an artificial sounding voice, the people just hung up, or they just completely, disengaged.
Right.
So I find that really fascinating that they're actively working to sort of make these AIs more human. And of course my mind goes to the next level as to, well, where do you stop? And so I don't know. I think for me the big interesting part of the Google Duplex conversation goes back to I/O when they first demoed it, and the blowback that they got for that, because people don't like that.
I think the blowback though was that there was no indication you were talking to an AI bot, right? I think if they would have disclosed up front, you're going to be listening to our new Google Duplex AI bot who's going to make these reservations. This is AI. This is not a real person. I don't think the blowback would have been as big and scary as people took it, because when they did that demo, there was a lot of people going, "Whoa, no, this is too creepy. This is invasive. We can't have this." And here we are. They're launching it this summer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I don't know, but the other side of it too is just like, what, just make your own damn hair appointment. Why are we spending money on all this stuff so that
because we're a society
the Google
now.
Home can make your hair appointment.
Well, we're a society now where we're going hands free. Instead of pulling out your phone and talking to your phone, or actually punching a number in your phone, you can just say, "Hey G," or to your Amazon Echo, call so and so and make me an appointment. And it'll do that for you.
Well, you know what? That's a perfect segue into this next story. Let's talk a little bit about Firefox and the fact that Mozilla is working on a voice-controlled web browser,
which would be very interesting because the web is so messy.
Well, this is interesting. Okay, so let me read a little bit about this. So Mozilla is of course the maker of Firefox. They are working on a web browser called Scout that will be operated completely by voice as opposed to keyboard or mouse or touchscreen taps. All right, well, Ryan, what do you think about this?
I think, again, it's something that I really hope takes off for those in the disability community who need access or only have access by voice, because there are people out there who can't use a traditional mouse or keyboard.
Right.
You know, maybe eye gaze isn't an option either. So, you know, having voice as an option, sure, why not? Well, we have products, you know, like JSay and, you know, Dragon voice recognition that will allow you to do web navigation. But again, you know, there's a pretty steep learning curve in a product like, you know, JAWS and JSay, and it will, you know, get you, you know, 95% there. But the web is so dynamic; it's changing all the time. You know, Mozilla would really have to stay on top of their development, I think, in order to make this work really well.
You know, the other part of this component that is incredibly powerful in terms of AT, of course, is that this thing would also read the article to you. So what we're talking about here is essentially a fully equipped browser screen reader.
So does it actually does it know the difference between the article and all the other
Well, we don't know. See, that's
content on the website that is irrelevant?
I found it interesting in the article that, you know, it does imply that users with vision loss, you know, would benefit here. But in it, you know, there's a comment around that, you know, that this will be benefit of people who rely on screen reading technology. But I think it's too early to really tell how, you know, how this functionality is going to interact.
Right.
You know, I think what would be really cool is if, you know, let's say I am, you know, totally blind and I'm using a screen reader, and I come across a website or an article I want to read and I'm using Firefox, I could just say, you know, read that article. So I could use a combination of my screen reader commands and voice to interact with that website.
Right.
I think that would be an asset.
Personally, I believe anything that brings us closer to the world of Star Trek: The Next Generation is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, listen.
As long as it's natural speech, you know, not, you know, tea, Earl Grey, hot. You know, you want
we might have to start there, though, Ryan. And would that be the worst thing?
Probably not.
It is interesting to me too that Mozilla, you know, are the guys that are working on this. I don't know that I haven't heard anything in terms of, you know, Apple or Google or anybody, Microsoft, working on anything like this either. I'm wondering, you know, with Firefox's, you know, market share sort of dropping, you know, if they aren't looking to innovate and try to make something that's, you know, really out of the box that nobody else has, to try to sort of regain some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, just in terms of some of the ways in which we use Firefox here at PRCVI when we're testing new files and whatnot, the fact that they're at the forefront of something like this, which is so clearly an accessibility feature, doesn't actually surprise me very much. You know, I've just been aware of a few things that they've been working on over the last few years. I had a colleague actually move from the alt formats community into, she works for Mozilla now, around things around accessibility. And so this I'm glad to see this. Although from an alternate format perspective, an access perspective, I'm not terribly surprised that Mozilla is the one on top of this.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think it's probably going to be very long before we see Microsoft probably do something similar. They've had such a big push in accessibility over the last couple of years, and you know, including Braille and all their narrator updates that keep coming out, all the documentation. You know, it's becoming a very viable screen reader. It wouldn't surprise me. You know, they've got eye gaze built in to Windows 10. This is just another avenue for them to go down. So.
Right. Well, and it's fantastic that companies are, you know, thinking accessibility at all. But not only that, I mean, these guys are thinking, you know what, an accessibility edge is gonna what is gonna give us, you know, a competitive place in the marketplace. That's great. Like let's get everybody working.
I mean, this is all part of this broader move to make, you know, accessibility and inclusive design, not just the responsibility of a small group of specialists in the nonprofit sector or in the government sector. When you're looking at some of the major points of innovation when it comes to digital accessibility these days, they're coming out of R&D and tech developments in the private sector. It's really exciting to see.
It absolutely is. I mean, we've said it for a long time. It's accessibility is moving away from being something that's tacked on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or the responsibility of just, a small group of informed specialists.
Yep.
Because that's really a very old. Well, no, it's an older way of thinking about inclusion. It's more in line with what used to be called mainstreaming. This is again another education bias piece coming out here. But where students were expected to, students could be with their typically developing peers, but they had to adapt to what was happening in the environment. And that's where all the specialized materials and equipment and staff came in. And now, with kind of more with the conceptualization of inclusion that I think we're currently working in, the responsibility is shared across the environment. There's an expectation that technology and learning materials across the board are going to, be accessible right out of the box. They're going to be born that way.
Yeah, and used as a selling feature. I mean, that's
absolutely. Absolutely. It's not, as you said, it's not an add-on anymore. It's people. I do presentations sometimes, and when I'm talking to groups of, let's say, pre-service teachers, and I say, for those of you who have an iPhone in your pocket, whether you're aware of it or not, you have access to one of the most powerful speech-to-text engines available on the market today.
Right.
Well, and I think another example is, Rob has mentioned before on the show, audio description on Netflix. It's not necessarily for people who are blind or visually impaired. You could be in the kitchen and still following along your favorite Netflix show.
Oh yeah, yeah. But see, this is where I've got this. My perfect example of this is I 3D printed a file that I got from, I think it was Thingiverse, about a year ago, and it's a Braille periodic table. And so all of the element tiles on the periodic table, if you can picture it, are in Braille. And it's 3D printed. But the thing that's really neat about it, and I can't take any credit for this because this was just an open source file that I printed, the element tiles are raised in proportion to the density of the element that it represents.
Oh, wow.
So it's really neat because it gives, let's say, a student who's totally blind instant access to kind of how the elements are arranged on the periodic table and the relationship to density. And just, as you come from the outside to the inside of the periodic table, things get denser. So it kind of crests in the middle.
Interesting.
But, think about for every student, just whether you're looking at it, touching it, whatever, you have instant access to that concept in a way that a print table of atomic densities wouldn't convey either as effectively or in as engaging a manner.
Right.
So it's this idea that things might be absolutely essential for a small group of students, but beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, and that's really the key that people are finally beginning to realize. That accessibility, it just benefits everybody almost across the board. There's no time when an accessibility feature on any given device wouldn't also benefit somebody who is able-bodied.
Absolutely. I'm reminded of the old chestnut, the tide that lifts all boats.
That's right.
I mean, that's I used that recently when I was talking to some folks around inclusive publishing, and about how, it really, how we're moving to a place where formats, learning materials, books, novels, textbooks, are going to come in an accessible format, right from the publisher, and that everyone is going to find some functionality there. Not everyone might be interacting with the entire text, using a screen reader, let's say. But if there's more interactive elements, if there's more kind of multi-sensory access to concepts and ideas in literacy materials, then that's just more accessible for everybody.
Right. Well, and again, this is a great segue into our next stories. Now, this is and this plays in perfectly to what we're talking about. Okay, so as we all know, everything's going voice controlled. It's all the rage right now, obviously, from just the stories that we've been talking about, and just what we know about the advent of all the digital assistants. However, there is, of course, a segment of disability that is excluded from this, and that is the deaf community, or the people who are nonverbal. What about them? How do voice assistants play in for them?
Well, let's talk about that.
Well, let's talk about this, because I thought this is absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely.
So this guy, because I want to give this guy's, oh geez, of course he would have a complicated name for me to say. Okay, I can't say that. Okay, so anyways, we'll put all this in the show notes. But an app is being worked on that would allow people to use sign language to communicate with. In this sense, it's an Alexa.
Amazon Echo.
Sorry, it's an Amazon Echo. Just brilliant. So the way the app works is that the app uses just a laptop camera, will recognize ASL, American Sign Language, translate that, voice it to an echo, then take what the echo comes back with and prints it off on screen. The demo is incredible if you watch it. And this is just one guy that's working on this. Some big corporation needs to take this and run with it, and we just need to develop it.
Maybe you'd be able to use the Amazon Echo app on your smartphone and the camera on your smartphone and communicate with a bank teller, using sign language, and that translation would be done directly on your phone.
Yeah.
Or if you're out ordering coffee somewhere. I read another article that Starbucks is opening its first sign language coffee shop as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there is a lot of opportunity for a product like this.
Yeah, it's something that and I hate to say, I don't want to say that we don't hear about it more often. I think that it's just that it could just be that we don't talk about it enough. But yeah, people who are deaf are sort of left out of some of these conversations.
Well, I think just furthermore, not even from something that, well, we kind of touched on this in terms of some of the examples that this could be used, but, not only from just a voice command and, the more functional sides of things, just like getting things done or getting assistance with something, there's also the communication with others aspect. Whether you're ordering coffee or whether you're having a conversation with someone who does not use ASL.
Yeah, that's right. The great part about this guy is that he's developed all this himself, but all his code is all open sourced. He's actually hoping that somebody takes what he's done and continues to develop it.
Right.
This could be really, really huge for the deaf community. All right, we're done with news stories.
All right, thanks, Adam. Talk to you later.
Get lost.
Cool.
No. Let's talk. Well, I don't know. We could just free spin about something, some Braille things. I don't know. Do we have any? Yeah. Got anything?
Well, actually, it's I did. I'm glad our conversation went towards the more kind of inclusive design piece, because that's something that's just like every day over here for me these days.
Is that right?
Yeah, this idea of moving the sole responsibility for the production of alt formats away from just exclusively a small group of specialists, and making it more of a priority, in inclusive settings across the province. I think one of the big one of the frontiers of inclusion that we might not always pay as close attention to is how inclusive learning materials are.
Right.
We pay a lot of attention to where students are educated. Are they in a special classroom? Are they in a special school? Are they fully integrated with peers in a community school? We do a good job of paying attention, I think, also to how inclusive teaching is, our practice. A big thing that I'm thinking about, that a number of us are thinking about across the country and around the world really, is this idea of inclusive design and how accessible learning materials are, and not just for our students with really clearly clear perceptual disabilities, so like a visual impairment, but that are accessible for all students. Maybe the student who needs a little bit of text to speech support,
right.
Or maybe a student who's new to English as or has English as an additional language. So we're just thinking about ways that all learning materials could be more accessible, and so this notion of universal design that pretty well, I think, cut across all the news stories, is something that's I think occupying more and more time and space and oxygen, at least in education.
Yeah, and I would say across the board. We're definitely seeing that in the mainstream as well. There are, mainstream products that are being used as platforms to create, accessible technology. One thing that CAT sells is the Iris Vision, which is essentially an Oculus Rift VR headset that's been repurposed and used as a platform to create this, low vision aid.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, and by doing that, able to bring the cost down from some other similar solutions, but that are completely proprietary, and they sort of build it from the ground up.
Right.
I think that's there's some real movement in taking a lot of what's mainstream and using it to really create some out of the box AT solutions. So it's an exciting time.
Well, there's
it totally is. Yeah, I mean, we're one of the things that I'm really excited. We're kind of working right now on how we can get more students using the EPUB file format. Well, I mean, EPUB's been around for a while, but I think what's really come to what many have come to realize is that EPUB is one of the more you say in air quotes here, out of the box accessible formats, and so it's something that is relatively ubiquitous, but if you really promote the accessibility side of it as well, you've got something that's available in the quote unquote mainstream, that also ticks a lot of accessibility boxes as well for people who need that extra support.
Yeah, and I think one of the big hindrances when it comes to text, EPUB, PDF, is whether they're protected or not, and having EPUB 2 protected files, or EPUB 3, which I think allows you to include like media and graphics and all sorts of fun stuff. Once we get past this, or find a way to work with these protected files, I think that'll really open up the door to give more access to a lot more information. Publishers already have the digital file. It shouldn't take a lot of work to change their thinking.
No, and to that point, Ryan, the intellectual property and copyright landscape has really shifted in the last few years, and will continue to do so. With Canada being a signatory to the Marrakesh Treaty, which is a major landmark international treaty around intellectual property and the availability of materials in alternate formats for users with or readers with perceptual disabilities.
Right.
There's the really, I think the exciting thing here that differs from even when I first came into the field is that there's exciting work happening, but there's exciting work happening at so many different levels and in so many different sectors that's all starting to converge on some of this, around some of this like universal design or out of the box accessibility stuff. When I first came into the field, when there was a new note taker would come out, that would be very big thing. And that's where we looked for a lot of development and innovation in our community was with those more specialized pieces of technology. But now, we're seeing innovation in this area from anywhere from the specialized pieces of technology right up to the World Intellectual Property Organization. So it's, I think that's one of the really exciting things is that a lot of the different movements are starting to converge around that universal design idea.
Yeah. These days, I mean, every day there's something. There's something new being developed, or there's somebody's trying something new, or some 14-year-old has created an app. Some kid, builds a Braille printer out of Lego. I mean, it's it's really incredible. It's really, I've never seen the assistive technology field being so active that as it is right now, or the talk of accessibility, inclusion, and inclusive design. I mean, it's an incredibly exciting time.
Well, and even if, let's say 10 years ago, even if, and I don't know, maybe this was true, maybe it wasn't, but even if this type of work was happening, it may not have been getting the same kind of attention that it is right now. But, I think that there's a real, there's a real emphasis and there's a real desire to see, and I think the inclusion movement has a lot to do with this, that this type of thing where innovative things like the Braille printer out of Lego, I think is a great example of, something that attracted a lot of attention from not just people in the blindness community or the community of persons who read and write in Braille, but it really got a lot of kind of universal attention.
That's right.
And 10 years ago, there might have been something cool that would have gone out on a listserv to maybe 100 people.
That's true.
Right. Notice I used listserv there.
You're showing your age. You're gonna need one of those super suits soon.
Yeah, really. And that's where it kind of began and ended.
Yeah.
But now, I mentioned before how my let's say 10 years ago, or maybe a little less than that, the only news articles that my friends would send me would be those news articles that, grossly overstate that or that announce the death of Braille. Do you know the ones I mean?
Yeah.
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 Well, nowadays, Braille gets far more attention around the new and innovative ways in which it's used. I mean, look, you've got go right back where we started our show. You've got development teams who are working on new interactive dynamic materials that don't replace Braille, just representing it in new and more flexible and perhaps more efficient ways.
Right.
So Braille's not dead, everybody.
No. Good.
Long live Braille.
Far from it. Yeah, no, and nor is nor is hard copy Braille, like actual paper Braille, dead either. I'm sitting in a place right now with a warehouse that will prove otherwise. But what we can say though is that students have more tools in their toolbox.
Yeah.
Right? They've got more ways of accessing literacy materials. They're doing it through hard copy Braille. They're doing it through refreshable Braille. They're doing it through a combination of refreshable Braille and audio. They're doing it audio only. I think that it's, to say that Braille is dead really just kind of glosses over or paints over all of the really interesting nuances of how Braille is used in 2018.
Right.
There's another plug.
Good one.
There you go. I kind of lost track of my tally there, but that's another one.
Woo! Oh, you see, this is why it's good to do these news shows once a month, Ryan, is that I always feel so optimistic after we do them. It's just like, there's all kinds of work being done.
Then you get to go home
It's
and write
a
a blog.
vibrant, exciting field to be in. We've got wearables, we've got super clothing, we've got...
Tactile graphics. We got all sorts of fun stuff.
It's going to be great. The future's great.
Let's see if we can ride that enthusiasm until at least the afternoon.
Yeah, we'll see.
And we can, because like I said, there's so many exciting things happening now, and it's not just coming in from a small group of committed specialists.
No.
I think the really exciting piece is that I've got people who maybe have never thought about accessibility before calling me and saying, I've read somewhere that there are standards for web accessibility. Where can I find them?
Wow, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's it's not just in response to legislation, although part of it is, in certain parts of the country, we have provincial legislation that includes, among other things, specifications around online accessibility. But just, I've got people from, around the education sector and beyond who are curious about about digital accessibility and curious about what they could be doing better. Now, I'm not an expert in digital accessibility. I mean, I can point them to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, but it's really exciting. I find another big shift is that when it comes to inclusive design and accessibility, rather than specialists having to go to the quote unquote mainstream and reminding them of their responsibilities in this area, it's actually, we've got the mainstream, quote unquote mainstream folks coming to the specialists saying, hey, what could we be doing better? Right. So that's another optimistic point that, it goes beyond the sunshine unicorns and puppy dogs of the world. It's actual, I see it as an actual positive movement moving forward.
Yep. I agree. See, Ryan? Yeah. See, that's why Ryan's been so quiet this episode, because it's all been sunshine
unicorns,
on
puppies. That's right.
He hates unicorns. He's always throwing rocks at unicorns, kicking puppies.
Oh,
I don't kick puppies.
Okay, fine. I retract that accusation, Ryan. I'm sorry.
I love puppies.
He does glare at them, though. Gives them dirty looks.
No, it's just you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine.
You're conflating some things here.
Hey, Adam. Thanks so much for joining us and helping us out today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Listen, before you go, anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about real quick before we go?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to plug the Braille Challenge. So, if any of your listeners have students who read and write in Braille, it's posing that question to your teacher of students with visual impairments about hey, do we have access to a regional Braille challenge, and if not, could we start one? And and hopefully I'll get you guys to link in the notes to my Twitter. So that if people have any questions about anything I've said or want to get more information on the Braille Challenge, that they can either, of course, Google it, which is the utmost expert on everything, or they can reach out to me.
Perfect. We will certainly do that.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, listen, Adam, we'll let you go. Thanks again so much for helping us out. And let's plan. We'll have you on again. Let's do a Braille centric show. Let's do like a Braille Palooza.
Love it. Yeah, definitely. Always happy to come on.
Okay, I'll talk to Ryan and we'll set it up.
Perfect. All right, take care.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
He's got too much energy.
Yeah, kept looking over at you. You're just like, I hate this. It's too positive.
That's right. Is this the first news show in 2.5 years that we had no negativity?
Maybe, or very little. You tried, but I shut you down real quick.
What can you do?
Yeah, it's fine. You'll be back next week.
Maybe.
Yeah, you will.
We'll see.
You can't stay away. All right. Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at www.atbanter.com.
They can also send us an email if they so desire.
They can?
They can. atbanterpodcast@gmail.com. They can also find us on Facebook at atbanter, all one word, and Twitter at @AT_banter. Canadian Assistive Technology. Ryan, why don't you tell the fine folks where people can find Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, fine folks, you can find Canadian Assistive Technology at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. And check out our new video we just posted.
I was just going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want to see our ugly mugs, yeah, or listen to our incredibly nasally, whiny voices, yeah, you can see our new video right there on the homepage.
All right. We also have another partner, Rick Chant with Chaos Technical Services. Where can people find out more about him?
They can go plug in www.chaostechnicalservices, all one word, .com, and it'll take it to his spectacular website where you can get all the information on all the servicing that he does on any and all assistive technology.
Excellent.
I think that's it, Ryan.
I believe so.
We can go back out into the heat.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's hot. It is hot.
They're saying I might go into next week too, which really makes me sad.
Oh, really?
I like the low to mid 20s. This, 30 and 30 and above is just hot. It's gross. Can't sleep at night.
Although, man, we don't get the humidity that they do back east.
No,
so
for sure.
That's, we don't have much to complain about.
Oh, yeah. When they're
These
getting
people aren't
40s,
dropping dead
45s,
here.
and 50s, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, we are fortunate that way.
But still, we'll complain because it's human nature.
Yep.
All right, sir. Let's get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll-free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.